Hey everyone, welcome back to English Mastery Podcast. I'm super excited about today's episode because we're diving into something we all face, real-life conversations at the airport.
Oh yeah, this is going to be a good one. Airports can be pretty stressful places, especially when English isn't your first language.
Exactly, and that's why we wanted to focus on this topic today. I mean, there's so much going on at airports, check-ins, security, finding your gate.
And dealing with all of that in English can feel pretty overwhelming, right? But don't worry, we're going to break it down and make it super manageable.
That's right. We'll look at some really practical conversations that happen at the airport, and we'll give you the exact phrases you can use to feel more confident.
Yeah, and the best part is, these are real conversations, the kind you'll actually hear and use. Not those textbook dialogues that nobody uses in real life, you know?
Oh my gosh, those are the worst. Today we're keeping it real, keeping it natural, and most importantly, making sure you can handle any airport situation like a pro. So let me introduce you to our characters for today's conversation. We have David, who's traveling to visit family, and Jessica, who works at the airline check-in counter.
Yeah, and this is such a common scenario, right? David's like many travelers. He needs help finding his way around and getting checked in for his flight.
What I love about this situation is that it covers so many typical airport interactions. Finding the right counter, checking bags, getting directions.
Exactly. And Jessica represents that helpful airline staff member we all hope to meet when we're feeling a bit lost at the airport.
Oh, and before we jump into their conversation, I should mention that David's flying with XYZ Airlines, and he's got a suitcase to check in.
Right. And he's also looking for some basic information about where things are in the airport, something we've all been through at some point.
Shall we listen to how their conversation plays out?
Let's do it. Pay attention to how they interact. It's a perfect example of a professional but friendly airport exchange.
Hi, excuse me. I'm looking for the check-in counter for XYZ Airlines. Could you help me out?
Of course. The check-in counter is right over there, next to Gate 5. Just follow the signs and you'll find it easily.
Great, thanks. Do you know what time the check-in closes?
Yes, check-in closes 45 minutes before departure, so you'll want to get there on time.
Understood. I've got my passport and ticket ready. Could you take a look at them, please?
Sure thing, David. Everything looks good. Now, do you have any checked baggage with you?
Yes, I have one suitcase.
All right, please place it on the scale here so we can make sure it's within the allowed weight.
Okay, here it is.
Perfect. Your bag is within the weight limit. Here's your boarding pass. Your flight is scheduled to board at Gate 12 at 6:30 p.m.
Awesome, thank you. Could you also point me in the direction of the security check?
Absolutely. The security checkpoint is straight ahead from here. Once you clear security, just follow the signs to your gate. Also, remember to remove your laptop, liquids, shoes, and belt before entering the scanner area.
Got it. Thanks for the heads up. I almost forgot about the shoes and belt.
No worries at all. It happens. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Actually, yes. Is there a spot where I can grab a quick snack before my flight?
Yes, there's a cafe just past the security area. You can grab a coffee or a light snack there.
That sounds perfect. I really appreciate all your help, Jessica.
You're very welcome, David. I hope you have a pleasant flight and enjoy your snack.
Thanks again for everything. Have a great day.
You too, David. Safe travels.
Adrian, I noticed something really interesting about that conversation. Did you catch how polite and formal the language was?
Absolutely. This is exactly what you'd expect at an airport. Let's break down some of those polite phrases David used.
Yeah, I noticed he started with, "Could you help me out?" instead of just saying, "Help me."
Right. That's a perfect example. Using could you or would you makes requests much more polite. Did you also notice how he said, "Could you take a look at them, please?"
Oh, yeah. And Jessica's responses were always so professional, like when she said absolutely and of course, instead of just saying yes.
Exactly. And here's something really important. She gave clear, detailed instructions. Like when she said, "The security checkpoint is straight ahead from here. Once you clear security, just follow the signs to your gate."
I also noticed how they both used lots of thank yous throughout the conversation.
That's such a good point. In professional settings like airports, it's really important to acknowledge help. David said things like, "I really appreciate all your help," and "Thanks for the heads up."
And Jessica always confirmed things before moving on, right? Like when she said, "Is there anything else I can help you with?"
Yes, that's standard professional customer service language. She also used phrases like "sure thing" and no worries at all to keep things friendly while still being professional.
I noticed she gave extra information without being asked, like reminding David about removing his laptop and belt at security.
That's what makes great customer service, anticipating needs before they're expressed. And notice how she always used his name? That's another way to make the interaction more personal while keeping it professional.
Now, let's talk about making these conversations sound more natural. You know what I mean? Those little words and phrases we use to keep things flowing.
Oh yeah, those filler phrases are super important. Like when David said, "Actually, yes," before asking about the snack spot, it sounds way more natural than just saying yes.
Right. And I noticed Jessica used phrases like "sure thing" instead of just "yes." That makes it feel more friendly, doesn't it?
Exactly. And did you catch how they used questions to keep the conversation going? Like when David asked follow-up questions about the security check?
That's such a good point. It's not just about getting information, is it? It's about making the conversation flow naturally.
Totally. And you'll notice they used lots of acknowledgement words too, like got it, perfect, and awesome. These little words show you're listening and engaged.
You know what else I loved? How they used casual expressions like heads up instead of always being super formal.
That's right. Even in a professional setting, you can mix in some casual phrases to sound more natural. Like when Jessica said, "no worries at all," that's way more friendly than saying, "it's not a problem."
And what about those little reactions, like when David said, "great, thanks"? It shows enthusiasm and appreciation without being over the top.
Absolutely. These natural reactions make the conversation feel more authentic. Notice how they also used each other's names occasionally? That's another great way to make the conversation more personal.
So would you say it's about finding that sweet spot between being professional and being natural?
Exactly. You want to be polite and clear, but not so formal that you sound like a robot. It's all about adding those human touches while still getting your message across effectively.
Hey, let's cover some other important airport vocabulary that you might need. There's so much more than just check-in counters and security checks.
Definitely. One term you'll hear a lot is layover. That's when you have to wait at an airport between connecting flights.
Oh yeah, and don't forget gate change. That's always fun, right? When your flight suddenly moves to a different gate.
And then there's boarding pass versus ticket. A lot of people get confused about those. Your ticket is what you purchase, but your boarding pass is what you actually use to get on the plane.
What about those annoying delay announcements? You know, when they say your flight is delayed due to technical issues or weather conditions.
Right. And don't forget standby. That's when you're waiting to see if there's space on a flight that's already full.
Another important one is customs and immigration. That's where you go through passport control when you're traveling internationally.
Speaking of which, there's also duty-free shopping. Those stores in the international terminal where you can buy items without paying certain taxes.
And what about when they announce final boarding call or last call for passenger? That always makes my heart race a bit.
Oh yeah. Along with priority boarding for first-class passengers and general boarding for everyone else. You'll also hear terms like carry-on luggage versus checked baggage.
And don't forget about the baggage claim area. That's where you pick up your checked bags after the flight. They usually announce the carousel number.
One more that trips people up is terminal versus gate. The terminal is the whole building section, while your gate is the specific door where you board your plane.
These are all such useful terms. And remember, if you're ever unsure, you can always ask airport staff for clarification.
Now, let's talk about how you can practice these airport conversations before your next trip. You know, there's nothing better than feeling prepared.
Oh yeah, that's so important. I always get nervous when I have to speak English at airports, even though I speak it every day.
One great tip is to practice with role play. You can do this with a friend or even in front of a mirror. Try going through the whole check-in process, from greeting to goodbye.
That's such a good idea. And you could record yourself on your phone too, right?
Exactly. Recording yourself helps you hear how you sound and identify areas where you might need more practice. Plus, you can listen back and compare it to our example conversations.
I also find it helpful to write down common phrases and practice them beforehand. Like, could you point me to gate find, or what time does boarding start?
That's brilliant. And don't forget to practice listening skills too. You can watch airport scenes in movies or TV shows, or even watch real airport announcements on YouTube.
Speaking of announcements, those can be really tricky to understand sometimes, even for native speakers.
They definitely can be. That's why I recommend paying special attention to numbers and times when you're practicing. Those are crucial details you need to catch.
Another tip is to arrive at the airport early and just listen to conversations around you. It's like free practice.
Just remember to be respectful and not too obvious about it. And here's my favorite tip. Use airport apps to familiarize yourself with the vocabulary in a real context.
Oh, that's clever. And maybe practice reading signs in English too, since airports have signs everywhere. All right, everyone, we're coming in for landing on today's episode. You know, the key thing to remember is that airport conversations don't have to be scary or overwhelming.
Absolutely. Whether you're checking in, going through security, or just asking for directions, it's all about being clear and polite.
And don't forget all those helpful phrases we covered today. Things like, could you help me with, or I'm looking for, will get you far.
You know what I love about airport conversations? They follow a pretty standard pattern, which makes them perfect for practicing your English.
So just remember, keeping things light and asking questions is a simple way to keep conversations going. Don't be afraid to use those polite expressions we discussed.
Yeah, and don't forget to practice what you've learned. Thanks for tuning in to the English Mastery Podcast. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Take care, and subscribe our channel for more videos.